Are you ready to reclaim your inner bat? Oh, shut your mouth. Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Dupree, scouring the globe to bring you stories of courage, passion, and resilience. If I could sum up this podcast into one word, I would use empathy. Now let's get inspired. Yes. Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. This is episode number 4. I am your host, Brett Dupree. Ecstatic because today is the day, well, technically tomorrow and for you over a week ago, where I release this podcast. An idea I had a couple months ago was finally coming to fruition. There's a few more finishing touches I need, such as recording this podcast because tomorrow I'll be busy setting things up and making sure it's on all the other podcast feeds, or at least, giving them a little setup. I have no idea why I went there or why I acted so coy. Who cares? Celebrate good times. Come on. I actually created an event. Last time I created a podcast, I did absolutely nothing to promote it. I think I shared it every once in a while. I guess it shows my growth. It only took me 10 years of doing this and almost becoming 40 to getting to the point where I finally feel good enough about what I do and how I do it to promote myself. It's kind of weird how that works, especially to my friends and family. It's easier for me to promote myself to strangers than it is to tell my friends what I'm doing. There's that always bit in the back of my head that I'm being judged. And, kind of care about them more. Or worse, they might not support me as much as I'd like. Because I would like a lot of support. I have over 1,000 Facebook friends, and every once in a while I go to delete some, but then I remember why they are my friends. Even though some of them I don't really know or talk to, but they're part of a certain group or a part of a certain tribe, and I like that tribe. I might as well keep them. Anyway, I'm finally doing it into action. And the amazing part about this podcast, if you listen to the first 3 episodes and I'm now on episode 4, is how easy it's been. The idea I had, it seems to work. I won't know until, tomorrow how many people listen to it and if people actually like it. That's weird. You're here on episode 4, so you know if anyone likes it or if you like it or if this is your first time listening to it. I guess it's a weird thing to talk about, but that's the thing that's in the head. Each one of those were pre-recorded for a week before each other and kind of an intro to myself. But this is me being me, talking about me and how I am putting this out there. And here's the thing. When it comes to being vulnerable, I am not, or at least in the past, have not been good at it. I still remember in my coaching class almost 10 years ago or more. It's hard for me to remember dates sometimes. We're doing this thing called Living Your Vision. And we're supposed to create vision statements and mission statements to keep us on our path. And we are writing down words that we associate with ourselves so we can get towards the inner us. And I'll never forget what my coach Susan McKay said, one of my favorite people I've ever met in my life. As she suggested when I went up to walk up to my sheet of paper to write down, that I walk up and back. And so I can clear my head a little bit. And then she said the words that I'll never forget. You have to be vulnerable. The thing that surprised me when she said that is the fact that I thought I was. I thought I was being seen. I thought I was being open. I thought I was. But the reality is it's so easy. So easy to lie to ourselves. In fact, most of the time when I talk to people about that, they say that they're not, but most of the time they are. You've had that friend who's been in that relationship and it's not working out, but they say it's different this time, but it's not different because they're lying to themselves. Self-deception is one of the easiest deceptions. But that's just one of many instances I talked about where being vulnerable is just not my thing. It's hard for me to connect to people sometimes which is really funny because that's my number one goal in Toastmasters as I work on my speeches, is to work on my ability to connect with an audience. Because I know when it comes to business, the most important thing is connection. Connection is very important. You want to be authentic and connect. And it doesn't even matter what they do. I mean, there's some people who are out there who are selling their snake oil, telling you that you too can become rich with their rented car, rented sunglasses, rented women by their side. And you might be snookered in by those people thinking that you too become a 6 figures in a month by just doing their program, selling on Amazon, Etsy, flipping things on eBay, their secret funnel technique. But the ones that stick with you, the ones that truly allow you to make a difference in this world, are the ones that teach you how to be authentic, how to be your true you. And that brings us our next interview. Emily Klein. I met Emily Klein at a mastermind group. One of the many, actually this mastermind group for me was my Hail Mary pass that didn't even feel like it even made it into the end zone. But I love the people that I met there, and one of them was Emily Klein. She gave good hugs. Such a great presence. I'm super excited to have her on my podcast. She gave a great interview, of course. I've yet to have a bad one. 11 down. All good. But her dedication to helping others is something that I find, because she's still around, very, very authentic and wonderful. Emily Klein, the founder of Live a Joyful Life, is an author, positivity expert, and life coach. Emily works with perfect women masquerading as imperfect wives, moms, and not good enough little sisters. She tells her clients to lean into, move through, and release shame, fear, and unworthiness that prevents them from living fully, not to mention joyfully. Her 25 years of experience in personal development have made her an expert in helping all women to create juicy, kick-ass lives. Emily lives in Montclair, New Jersey, with her 11-year-old daughter, their large brown dog, and small gray bunny. It is my honor to present to you, my loyal listeners of 4 episodes, the interview with Emily Klein. Welcome, Emily, to the Joyous Expansion Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. This is the first recording where I know the name of my podcast.
Woohoo!
So listeners, we know each other through a mastermind group. So I've met Emily in person, and she's pretty awesome. Excited to have her on here.
I would say the same about you.
Aw, thank you.
And you give a good hug, I remember.
Oh, yeah. I am very proud of my hugs.
As you should be.
Tell us a little about what you do.
I actually call myself a positivity expert. And what that means is I'm glass half full. I am ice cream and cake. I'm silver lining. And I think that it's a skill that can be learned like anything else.
Ah, so it's a skill that can be learned. Was it a skill that you always didn't have?
I was always a pretty positive person, but life can be hard, and sometimes you have to really look for what's great about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely do. So how did you get started in your business?
I got started in my business. Actually, yeah, that's correct. By starting to fix myself. Like I remember I was 25. I was hungover. And I was sitting at this pool with a friend of mine, and she was like so together and she seemed so great. And I was like, what? I was like, I feel like I'm spinning. I'm like, what goes on for you? And she's like, I did this course. And that was like my intro into the world of personal development. And my first course was a study of ontology, which is about being. And I really got hooked on what's possible for people.
Oh, yeah. That first course, there's almost nothing like it.
Right? It's like a drug.
It really is.
It is.
So
but it's a good drug,
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, all drugs just are like serotonin, and it's all chemicals in the brain.
Totally.
So how did that lead to you going further into starting a business out of that?
Well, okay, so I did a lot of sort of this and that. I was a dabbler, and I always wanted actually to be a chef. It seems like I'm going to the right, but I'm going to circle back around. I wanted to go to culinary school, but it was like a 2-year commitment, and I had this boyfriend and I had this job, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I broke up with a guy, and then I got fired. And I was like, awesome, I'm going to culinary school. I sort of went down that culinary path, but I ended up starting to do a lot of teaching. So I was teaching people how to cook because I feel that the connection between the quality of your food and the quality of your life, it's very present. I believe in that, and it makes a difference. And I'm not saying that you have to like make a 5-course meal, but it's like every meal you prepare is like a love letter to yourself and the people that you make it for. And when I was having these conversations with people while we were cooking, I found myself so interested in what people were up to in life because it was so much more than whatever we happened to be making. And then I found myself pivoting, because oftentimes that big change that you want to make, it's not a huge leap. It's like a little pivot to the left or to the right. It's kind of like, do you ever a fly gets in the car and it's like banging against the windshield and banging against the windshield and banging against the windshield, and you open the window, it's like an inch to the left and it just can't see how to get out of the car. Has that happened to you?
That's happened to me many times.
Yeah, life is like that.
Very true. I mean, a lot of times we want something big to happen so we can change our lives, and we kind of dream about that. It's like, oh, if this one moment happens, everything will shift and everything will just be perfect. In reality, life is a bunch of little tiny shifts, little tiny course corrections.
Amen. Lots and lots and lots of itty bitty, teeny tiny next right steps. And sometimes the next right step is a disaster, but it takes you to the next step.
Ooh, sounds like you have a story behind that. Did you have a disaster?
I've had many disasters. I think that my biggest mistake was at some point I decided that I wanted to turn my nice little cute thing that I did for cash on the side into a real business. And I invested a lot of money for people to tell me how to do that. And what my disaster was, what my biggest mistake was, I was waiting for them to grant me who I was in the world and what I was here to do. And I wanted someone else to tell me what that was.
And that didn't happen?
No, because no one can grant you who you are. But through the process of all of that, I grew myself into who I am and what I'm meant to do. And I really couldn't be clearer at this time. It took a while to get here, and it was scary. Life is scary. Stuff happens.
That is very true. Life is a bunch of stuff that is happening.
Yeah. All at the same time sometimes, I want to talk about, I was married I have been married for a little over 12 years, and I've been separated for a little over a year, or maybe a year and a half. And I was really unhappy for a long time. And there's something about getting up the courage, because I know this is about fear. There was something about getting up the courage to tell my husband that something needed to change and that I thought that we needed to take some time apart. And part of it was that I'd be working with these women and I'd be helping them create these amazing lives. And there's something that just felt incongruous about that. Not that I was a fraud, because quite frankly, I'm not a therapist and I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. Like, I'm not a medical person. But they say that if everyone who helped people was totally perfect, there wouldn't be anyone to help people. So it wasn't really necessary. But for myself, it just felt like I couldn't come to grips with it. And so there's that moment where you say the thing that you've been afraid to say, and it's just hanging out there like a thought bubble, and once it's out, you can't get it back in. It's sort of like that, there's that expression, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, and so there you are with your big hips and, and, no one to love you, or, whatever the thing was that you just did or said. Does that make sense?
What were you really afraid of when it came to putting your marriage on leave? What was the thing that was holding you back until you finally hit that moment where you had to?
The thing that was holding me back was I kept waiting for something to change. And we went through the motions of working on the relationship, but there were things that there were bigger fish than the little minnows that we were scooping, out with a net. I think I was afraid that I was going to discover that it was me and that no one else would ever love me. And I should make it work because there's a scarcity. I mean, like you look at any romantic comedy and there's always the pathetic single friend who can't find love. And, there I was with my checked boxes and I was unchecking one of them. And like, you just don't do that. I didn't have a safety net. I wasn't having an affair. I was moving away from something and toward what I hoped would be and what I've been creating moment by moment, my bright, shiny, juicy, joyful, delicious life. And I wasn't having it where I was. But I was so afraid that.
That makes sense. Nobody wants to be that plucky single best friend, even though they do have all the best lines.
They do. They do. It's like the monkey sidekick in, it was an old cartoon. What was it? The Peter Hippo, and he had that monkey sidekick. Now that I think about it, I don't know if the monkey sidekick talked.
So it's very interesting. Heard you talk about it being you, and that was a problem with your marriage. And then you were talking about before trying to search out for other people's approval of you as well when it comes to your business. Is there a correlation between the two?
One of the things that I've discovered is something that I call radical responsibility. Because when you take responsibility for something, that's when you get the power. Like that's when that comes to you.
Did you have a moment where you discovered radical responsibility?
What happened was my husband and I were talking about what had happened. I was really convinced that everything happened a certain way. And it turned out that he had a perspective. Go figure. And so I really had to take stock of what was my part. Like that doesn't negate what was his part, but in getting clear about what my part was, I could choose what I wanted to do with that. I could choose what was next. I could choose what was helpful and what was not helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in that.
Is so much radical responsibility, baby. Like it's everything.
Yeah, for me, discovering that I was responsible for my life, especially my emotions, was very important to me in my personal growth.
Yes. Say more about that.
The fact that emotions are just a response to stimulus, and there's nothing wrong with my emotions, but I am responsible for how I react. Like, I'm not responsible for what people say to me. I'm not responsible what's going out in the world. I'm not responsible for how people treat me, but I am responsible for how I react. Yes, I can feel angry. Yes, I can feel sad. Yes, I can feel any emotion, and all my emotions are fine, but I am responsible for what I do with them.
Yes. That's very well said. I totally agree. And, sometimes you could use something, or oftentimes, something bad that happens can really be a powerful transformative moment for you. You know what I mean?
Well, definitely. I remember when I declared bankruptcy, that really helped me get my meditation game down. I was like, something has to change. I can't be this way anymore.
Yes. At some point, you feel like if you do everything you're supposed to do, you go to school, you get your degree, you do all the right things, you're a good person, you're going to have a certain kind of life. Nothing guarantees anything. Like you actually have to create it for yourself. You know what I mean? Like at some point, there's no one going to come and get you or fix you or save you. You got to be your own knight on your own white horse or, pinto, that galloping pinto, I think I like better than a white horse.
Yeah, that's very true. But at the same time, also, it's good to ask for help as well.
Absolutely. So that reminds me. So the other day, I had this one of those. I'll call it one of those bad moments. And I was talking with this woman that I know, and she was talking about a mutual, I guess, an acquaintance for me, a friend for her. And this friend was really suffering about something. And I said to her, you should have her call me. And she said she thinks you prey upon women who are in a weakened state or something like that. Oh my God, it hit me in the gut. Like, I can't even tell you, I wanted to die. And I sat with it and I looked at it. And what I realized was that's not true. It's actually not true. And if she had a broken arm at 3 o'clock in the morning, would she feel that the Medi Center that was open, that set her arm for her and splinted it, would she think that they were preying on her? She would be grateful that they existed to help her with her issue.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, it was very helpful because I got really clear about what my value was and what my value would be to her or to anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing I like about that story is when that thing hit you, your first reaction was to go inside and really examine your feelings and examine your thoughts, thus taking responsibility for your emotions. And then you're able to use that to, well, come out of it. And sounds like also to put something in your marketing material.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah, that's so well said.
One thing that I like, which I thought of, especially for myself, is this idea that coaches are perfect. I remember somebody telling me, if your life is such a mess, how can you coach other people? But one thing I believe truly is the more just crap I go through and failures I have and problems I have, the better I could help other people through that.
Oh, definitely. It reminds me of this. I have a great illustration of that. So I take this early morning walk. I call it my bliss walk. And it's dark out when I go. And so it was a while ago, actually. I was walking and it was dark. And I was walking down this street. I come across this huge branch in the middle of the road. And I literally almost fell on my face. But I saw it at the last minute and I stepped over it. There was a guy walking behind me. And I called out, "Branch!" Which seems sort of like stupid, but my point is that if a coach goes through something, they can either help you avoid the thing or help you get back up when you fall or help you get around the thing or help you move through the thing because they have experience with the thing. But that's not to say that someone has to have experienced your exact thing to support you in having the life that you want.
That is very true. Very true. I like the way you put that.
Branch. And the guy thought I was a nut.
Did you have any more trials and tribulations as you run through your business?
I think that it's hard sometimes to trust that you're on the right path because you have it that it's going to look a certain way and then it doesn't look that way. Or, sometimes the people that you want to help are a tough market. Like I know people who, in some I work with divorced women. That's not the only people that I serve, but like to some degree I work with divorced women. They tend to have, not all of them, obviously. Women often have a hard time investing in themselves. So I know someone who actually works with divorced dads. And on some level, I'm sure it's because they need help too, but they also are often, and I'm generalizing here, but they often have more income.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like talking for women because I'm not a woman, but I noticed that a lot of women, especially, it's really ingrained in our society that women have to be like all motherly and more into service and taking care of everyone before they can take care of themselves.
Yes. What you say and what you say to your kids is you can have anything you want. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. But then when you're a mom, that all stops. And then everyone else comes before you. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about this, and one of the reasons that I ended my marriage is because I want my daughter to see what a successful person looks like, what life looks like, how to move through things, how to be happy and not how to suck it up.
Nice. So utilizing your service of your daughter to spearhead improving your life.
Yeah. I think it's so important because, like it or not, she's going to model me, and I need to show her something good. My own family growing up, my parents, both wonderful people, but they had a terrible marriage. They stayed together until I was 28 years old. So I had a 28-year front row seat to what a bad marriage looks like. And I didn't know what a good one looked like. And I still don't know. I mean, I'm not divorced yet. Creating something, it's almost creating something from nothing versus having this great, model to copy. My blueprint was you stay, you suck it up and you stay. It's why I was there so long.
So how do you go around helping divorced women through this process?
Once they're divorced, there's a rebuilding process that you go through where, you look at, there's a taking of personal inventory. And they're seeing where you are, where you want to go. And then I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, then you deconstruct and then you reconstruct. We back it down the mountain. What needs to happen. More even than working with divorced women, who I also really love to work with are the women who are stuck. The women who are, there was a movie that was called Girl in a Box. And it's about it was a true story about this poor girl that I think she was hitchhiking and she got picked up by this couple and they literally kept her in a box in their garage or something like that. For 7 years, she was in this box. But the truth is that so many of us are in a box that we've constructed and we can't figure out how to get out of it. I know when someone is unhappy. I know the questions they're asking themselves. I know what they're thinking. I know what their fears are. Maybe not all of them, but I know what they want to know. I know why they stay. And sometimes just because you're unhappy, that's not a reason to leave a marriage. It might be a choice that you make, but there's like, I want to save families, not break them apart. And sometimes deconstructing them is what saves them ultimately. And then the family looks a different way. Families look a lot of different ways. But I'm not like, rah-rah divorce girl. You know what I mean?
That would be a funny name for a business. One thing that stuck out to me in your bio was you work with perfect women. So I really would like you to talk more about that aspect.
The perfect women masquerading as imperfect moms.
Yeah.
There was a time in life when women, before you start having a family, there's a time where you live life on your terms and you create things and you know exactly who you are. And then suddenly you're someone's mom. And then you're responsible for that person. But not only are you responsible for them, you're responsible for what society thinks of you and all like the perfect women that show up, the Pinterest success moms versus the Pinterest fail moms. And women sometimes can be really cruel to each other. So embracing the imperfection and doing the best you can in that moment and getting support that you don't have to be perfect about this. And you can still create a life for yourself. It's really incredible. I have a Facebook group that I started. I have almost 600 women in there now. And I know some people have Facebook groups of thousands of women, but these are 600 women, mostly who I know. But also there's one as far away in Africa that relate to this sense of what happened to me? Where did I go? And then, they begin to, get back in touch with who they are, because before you were a mom, you were a woman. And then the other part of that is they're the women that wanted to be moms and for whatever reason didn't get married or couldn't have children or whatever. Then they have a whole other set of struggles to deal with about like, what is their purpose?
That makes sense. So that's when you work with them to relieve that fear, shame, and definitely unworthiness.
Yes, but it's about a community. I think a lot of people when they're having a challenge, it's very isolating when you're having a challenge that's not something that's like talked about. And, when you're having a problem in a relationship, for example, like when someone dies, people are like lining up with casseroles and offers of free childcare. But when you're going through a personal crisis, whether it's with a relationship, especially with a relationship, it's like cockroaches scattering when you turn on the light. There's just not an awful lot of support. And in fact, invitations look different because you're no longer a couple. You're like the one.
That makes sense. In fact, what you're talking about is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I remember when I was going through a lot of my things, especially before I started my personal development, or even especially when going through the business, there's always this feeling that I was alone. I'm the only person going through this. I'm the only person who's putting $10,000 in a coaching program and not getting any clients out of it. Everyone else is doing great. I'm doing terrible. Just the realization that I am not alone is just so freeing, that most people are mess up and most people, what they do, fail. And it's becoming friends with failure is just something magical about that.
Absolutely. Failure, if you're not failing, you're not playing big enough.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to be safely on the sidelines in life. You're not here to go through the motions and have a good enough life. Who on their tombstone, her life was good enough. Ugh, good enough for who?
Exactly. Well, we're coming towards the end of our time, and one thing I like to ask everyone to do is to give a 1 minute of motivation, 1 minute of inspiration. So are you ready?
Okay, I think so.
All right, let's inspire.
You've got this. Your juicy, delicious, joyful life is one decision away. So decide. Decide to live the life you imagined. Decide to choose joy. Decide that regretting the thing you did beats regretting the thing you didn't do every single time by a mile. The truth about failures is they're part of life. They're how we learn, they're how we get strong, how we show ourselves how resilient we are and how much we want it. They're how we prove to ourselves that we can do anything, have anything, and be anything, even after kids or no kids. Everything that you have done and everything that's been done to you has brought you to this moment. When you heard Emily Stulman Klein say, "Today is your day. This is your day. You can do it. I believe in you, and I've got your back."
Wow, that was amazing. And a minute.
Are you serious? Woo!
I want to thank you so much for being part of my podcast. I think your message is extremely inspiring. I love the fact that you talk about your failures and your hesitation to go through your separation at this time, and how you could help other people, especially the idea of building a community. And even though I am not a woman, I am sure that women appreciate the fact that once they become moms, there is somebody out there that understands what they're going through, and the fact that they don't have to lose themselves in having to just be a mom, that they can still be a woman as well as a mom, and having someone to both model that and to be a part of that, I imagine, is just something super special. So thank you so much for the service that you bring to this world, and it's been a super pleasure talking to you.
Thanks so much for having me. It was really great. I am here to support women in reclaiming their badass and having the life that is worthy of them, mom or no mom.
Awesome. Well, I will talk to you later.
Thank you so much for this. This was great.
I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
And there you have it, folks. Branch. Yeah, the ability for coaches to go through things and help other people is something that I don't think is thought upon as much as it should be. Mostly since this idea that we have to be perfect to help people, we have to be perfect to move forward, we have to be perfect or have all our things figured out before we can do what we want to do and be who we want to be and say who we want to say and play how we want to play and dance how we want to dance. Thinking there's second front Adam's family. Go, is ridiculous. And I love how Emily pointed that out. If there's only perfect people who are available to help, then no one would get helped. But the reality is just that's the way life is. There's never a better moment than now to start. Because the reality is when you move forward towards your goal, you're going to become the person you need to become to make it happen. You think about it. You don't become Michael Jordan by stepping on a basketball field. No, you do it by practicing. You do it by making layups, dribbling the ball. I don't know why I picked Michael Jordan. I'm more of a football guy anyway. But you don't start out great. You become great. And this idea that you have to put on a mask of perfection, especially I do see this as women. I remember when I was growing up, even our commercials had women who were talking about having it all and putting on this aura of perfection and not allowing anyone to know that they struggle. Because we have such a stigma in our society about struggle. And as you can tell, if you've actually listened to 4 episodes in, there's 4 people right there who have struggled and who are pushing through it. And that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to unleash your inner badass. Because now is the time to do so. I very much enjoyed that interview and listening to it for the 3rd time. Of course, remember, first time when I listen, second time when I edit, third time when I listen to record this part. It's super fun going down memory lane and hearing another person's desire to live authentically and what it takes for her to get there. I am very proud of Emily after listening to her story, and I know that she could help people. So if you're interested in checking Emily out, Emily works with clients both live and virtually, one-on-one and in groups. When you decide to live the life you imagined, Emily can be found at www.liveajoyfullife.com. That website again is www.liveajoyfullife.com. Huh. 3 L's. That looks kind of awkward. Who am I talking about? My website's joyousexpansion.com, and that's, if you look at it, joyousexpansion.com. If I had $1 for every time someone pointed out that you can see sex in my website, my business would be profitable. Thank you so much for listening to episode 4. I hope you got something out of it. Yeah, maybe take time to journal of thoughts that came up from Emily's story. What are you going to do differently now that you listen to that? Picking up an action that's going to change. If you like this podcast, subscribe. Hopefully it's on multiple places to subscribe. I know you can at least subscribe to the RSS feed because that will exist. I believe it will be on iTunes as well. If you'd like to support me, I will have at least one affiliate link because I'm about to put that on there now. Acuity scheduling. I'm sharing it because I love it. You don't understand how much I hate scheduling and how easy this makes scheduling. It makes it so easy. I love it, even if you don't use my affiliate link on my website, pod.joyousexpansion.com. The reason why it's not podcast is that's my old podcast. If you want to listen to who I was 4 years ago, it's a good way to, or 5 years ago? Sheesh, time. Share with your friends. If you want to send me an email, ask questions, Brett Dupree, 2 T's, 2 E's at joyousexpansion.com. And yes, now you'll notice that sex in the middle. I'm on Twitter at Joyous Expansion. I'm at Instagram at Joyous Expansion. I'm at Facebook at Increase Your Joy. Started that a long time ago before I really, but whatever. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you continue to stay. I will remind you once again that I love you for who you are, and to be joy, to be love, to be awesome. And yes, it's time to play that jingle. Oh yeah.
JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach. Good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue. I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Yeah.